Hey, FlimsyLunchTray, and when you're playing World of Warships, this is probably one of the most important screens that you can see before the battle even starts. It's paying attention to the matchmaking, seeing your team's lineup, seeing the enemy team's lineup, and breaking it down and figuring out before this timer hits 0 of what possibilities of plays can I make. And that's something that really I stress this a lot, but you know, when you go from a beginner player, a new player, to a intermediate to a professional Unicum player, intermediate players pay attention to matchmaking. They pay attention to your team's ship lineup, or your team's lineup, and then the enemy team lineup. And here I'm studying this, pulling it back up. And I'm debating, while I'm in Illinois, which I have several videos on, I'm debating, should I go down the channel? And the matchmaking is favoring me doing this. There are no aircraft carriers. One of the biggest downsides when you try to push up the map Two Brothers, the infamous Two Brothers map with the channel up the middle. For those of you who maybe are newer and you don't know much about this map, Flambas, World of Warships content creator, has made this map quite infamous in World of Warships by the plays he does up the middle of the channel. So when you see him play, it's pretty much expected by his viewers that when he's Twitch live streaming that he goes up the middle of the channel. But when you're looking at the matchmaking, one of the things to me that particularly helps with my decision going up the channel or not is, are there CVs? Are there hybrid battleships, cruisers? Something that's going to keep focusing me and making my life really difficult in the channel. Particularly dive bombers can easily target you, and if there's enough arming time for torpedoes dropping you from the side, if you're all the way against one of the walls of the channel as an example, and then rockets setting you on fire. So it can be a really unpleasant experience as a player and navigating the channel. So most players tend to not go down the channel. You tend to get two crowds, maybe one's those who are not very experienced, or those who are perhaps more so experienced in understanding kind of more what they're doing. So the matchmaker is telling me and giving me signs of, as well as the map awareness and setting the mini map, that my biggest threat, if I push up the middle, is if the Pommern. Where's the Pommern? Well, our Asasio already spotted the Pommern all the way over on the 9 line. So the Pommern pushing down with his amount of health pull, and he has torpedoes with those 12 guns, would make my life very difficult to do so here in Illinois. So I feel that with the matchmaker and being top tier as well, I think this is a top tier match. I can't see the ship lineup. Yeah, it should be with grids, yeah. So I feel pretty confident about doing this. So I'm just taking my time. I'm easing up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the strategy that I have when I play Two Brothers, when I do the mini map. And you're going to see that illustrated pretty well. I played this really exactly how I wanted to. So I'm taking my time. I'm coasting around the corner before I'm just yellowing around the corner. Maybe we catch a ship off guard here, so I switched to armor piercing with these 12 203mm guns, as who knows, we might get lucky. There's still some ships that haven't been spotted. A submarine could also make my life rather miserable, but I'm betting that the submarine's probably not going to, so that's just a guess. I'm making a bet on that. So I'm just waiting, just seeing what's happening. I'm wondering what North Carolina's up to. I don't want to drop depth charges just to see AA going, because I don't want anyone to know that I'm here. There's a Baltimore that has a 10-kilometer radar. We haven't seen him yet, and he's not used the radar, so we're still good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna push out here. I'm gonna go a little more to the left side of this channel, looking around, seeing how much space I have here, and we get spotted. The Baltimore has just been sitting there with his guns looking down here, and I don't necessarily know why. If he was just waiting, maybe a destroyer submarine, he would just catch them off guard. But I don't think he was expecting to see an Illinois come up the middle of the channel. So a little bit of some overpins there as well, because we're trying to get into that citadel of the Baltimore, and not just simply doing overpins. So some penetrations there, 11 of 12 shells hit on that last salvo. So it's not going to take too much work to wrap up this engagement here and polishing out Baltimore. So he goes down, and that gives us the first blood, and we go ahead and use the heal. And I'm debating, do I use the damage control party? Maybe not, because there's an Algerie. And Algerie has pretty good fire chance. So we held it because we were paying attention to our mini-map, realizing that he's probably the next target we're going to take. Now I'm curious about what North Carolina's up to. So on and so forth. So let me talk a little bit about the strategy of what I'm doing right here. What I like to do, my approach in playing like I am right now in Illinois, here in the channel, is that I want to push up and I want to put pressure on the enemy team. It doesn't mean I'm breaking out of the channel gap where I'd be pushing into an immediate crossfire with the North Carolina, the FDG, the Musashi, the Pomeran, the Algerie, all of that, and even an Alsace. Like, that would just be dumb if I just went out of the channel. My goal is to put pressure on the enemy team in the sense that they decide that I'm pulling them away from the flanks. That's my main goal. I'm also sitting on the cap now, just on the edge. That means I'm stopping their points. So I'm going to give our team a larger point difference here as well. And all the time we're paying attention, mini-map, seeing what the enemy team's positioning. So I like to play the middle of the map in the sense that I'm putting pressure on the enemy team. I'm trying to take the pressure off my team on the flanks and trying to make the enemy players think, oh, well, now he's capping, or he's on our cap, he's preventing any point intake, and he's just a threat sitting there in the middle. So then they leave the flanks and they come into the middle. That's the tactical approach that I have in particular with Illinois, or with just in this battle and this type of ship. But of course, the matchmaker was kind of the defining aspect of me making this decision or not. So that's how I like to approach, tactically speaking, playing the channel on Two Brothers. The big challenge that you have is, one, it'd be stupid if I just pushed out by myself. There's literally no one around to support me. My team's only on the flanks. I'm the only one here in the middle, right? So it'd be stupid to push out. I would die very quickly, and you can see the Pomerans even coming back. As I go dark and I decide we're going to take pressure off the cap, and we're just going to reverse, use Brisk, go back around the corner of that island, which is really important to play around. Either way you're going, up or down the channel, whatever spawn you start off on. So I want to back off a little bit here. I want to find out what these FDG and what the North Carolina's up to, but they're kind of chilling out, but it looks like North Carolina's coming this way. I had made a pre-decision that I'm going to put pressure on the enemy team. I'm going to be a problem. They have to come deal with me. I was sitting on their cap for a bit. Now they're 260 points. And then I'm going to back off, and I'm going to reverse back to the corner of this island. So if I need to disengage, I need to get a damage control party off, I need to get some more heals off, I can easily do so. I'm just slipping behind the corner of this island. As they're dropping down some depth charges, and I think one of them's going to pop a spotter plane, which is smart for them to get a good idea of where I'm at in the channel. So I have to make sure I don't just notcher into the channel corner here, but that I just need to keep going back around. So I have armor piercing, hoping to catch this North Carolina out broadside when it comes back around. So I'm the one, in my mind, in this situation, I'm the one holding the cards. I'm the one in control here, because I'm dictating the terms of the battle. I put pressure on them, and now I've backed off. And if they want to keep coming, I'm going to just simply draw them back into our cap, where I have more of my team more closely standby that could help or assist if need be. So this is Musashi, so I don't really want to pick a fight with two battleships at the same time. We bounce a lot of that, and then I think just one or two overpins there. So I'm going to just back up a little bit more, so Musashi is just going to kind of drift to the right there. But I'm going to focus first on the superstructure of North Carolina. One of the things I'm getting some nice, it's a 5.6k salvo. I think one of the things I would have liked to have done is critiquing myself is to use more HE, set some fires, and then can swap between the high explosive HE. So I didn't really do that in the beginning. I go ahead and preemptively use the heal because I'm going to take some more damage here, and I want to have my next repair party coming off of cooldown more quickly when I may need to use it. And now we're going to switch to the high explosive here. especially since North Carolina is kind of presenting more of an angled target here. So we're going to focus that superstructure, try to get some fires going on here. And then one of the things I had forgot is I'm going to use these damage control party because I want to have both my turrets going. Is that with these 2 and 3mm guns, you can actually, your penetration capability, you can actually punch through the bow of North Carolina. Even in Ohio, you can do. I don't remember the armor difference, I just know that you can. So with Musashi swinging back around, or it's the Pomeran, I can't remember which, I'm just going to reverse. I'm going to back off. I'm going to use the depth charges to get a rough idea of where the North Carolina is. There's Pomeran, and it looks like that. He's out of the picture. Because we're letting our repair party, we're letting our damage control party come off of cooldown. And so now we're going to see if we can draw the North Carolina back to us. As you can see, we have an Edinburgh who's close. I mean, I don't want him to just come out broadside and get clapped. A lot of the times that when you're pushing out his channel, you can just catch a cruiser out broadside, which is why I came around the corner of this channel with the armor piercing, and that's exactly what happened. The Baltimore was just waiting there, but he wasn't expecting to find us, I don't think, because otherwise he wouldn't have done that. And he didn't want to let anyone know that he was there, I think, and not using his radar. But if he would have used the radar, he would have quickly realized that this wasn't a good scenario for him to be in. So I'm pinging the map to let my team know that this North Carolina is pushing up a little bit. So we're just going to take our time. We're going to wait and see what happens here. Our team's still doing all right. They just took out the FDG. So it's kind of this controlled pressure is what I like doing here on Two Brothers. Now, of course, things can be different. The other strategy of being if you are in a division, let's say there's 2, 3 of you in a clan, or you were experienced enough that you feel that, you know, you can actually put pressure up and maybe you break out into the cap. You know, if let's say my team, like let's say the enemy team wasn't really back in their spawn and you push up, like they're more, let's say the E, F, G, then yeah, that totally makes sense to just go ahead and push out. But when you're solo like this, it's not good. So we're going to go ahead and use high explosive. We have these 8 shells, which do set a fire. And then we can, I'm like, oh yeah, I can shoot the bow and get some decent pin damage. So there's a 4.6k salvo. And then maybe we can also set a fire on the bow of the North Carolina here. So we're just going to have essentially this HP exchange. Even though you can see, even though he's not too far away, the Illinois guns, you know, that's a much tighter group. And then we can fire another salvo and you just have some shells going rather wide. So I like that one on the bottom right there. That definitely dropped and went wide to the right. So we set another fire. He uses a DCP. He fired a salvo. We go ahead and preemptively use our heal. And with pulling the North Carolina into the channel, that is allowing our team to begin to push up on the flanks, and there's one less battleship for them to have to deal with, at least for this point in time, because of this North Carolina is essentially getting engulfed. He has me in the front, as I'm going to keep shooting some more shots here, hoping to get another fire on him. And then his spawn, his team is collapsing as the Edinburgh takes out the Pomeran. And the Gritzy is nowhere to be seen on the one line. And is the Azuma, sorry, rocking the A line. So this North Carolina is just screwed. Not a situation you want to be in. So I think the North Carolina feels the pressure of the enemy ships behind him in the cap. As you can see, our Prince Rupert is actually kind of low, so I'm assuming that's probably going to be a rather tasty target that this North Carolina might want to shoot as our team on the right flank begin to push up. So now I'm going to re-exert pressure. I'm going to put the pressure back on North Carolina. So it's this trade balance. It's this balance where I feel that I've been able to control the engagement, dictating what's going on, dictating the terms of the engagement, where I put pressure on and then I relieve the pressure, drawing some of the enemy ships in this case only the North Carolina, and then we exert the pressure because the North Carolina can't deal with ships coming up on both of his flanks, or both of his sides, and us putting pressure on in the front. So he's just fired. So that means it's just easy for me to kind of push out here. And likely to get collapsed here because he's showing a lot of broadside to the Brindisi and the Edinburgh, but it's probably going to be the Brindisi with an AP salvo. Yeah, AP's doing a good bit of damage to North Carolina broadside, and then you got the Miyoko coming up the back. So really well done by our team there, and capitalizing on us drawing that North Carolina in, and then him coming out. And now with our cruiser guns that have pretty high shell arcs, I could even feel comfortable that if, let's say I was even lower on health, I could just sit in the channel and fire over the island here. But I feel like it's okay for me to push up here and put pressure on the cap because this Azuma is melting rather quickly. It's definitely going to be doing that with the Miyoko HE, the Brindisi SAP, but he's going to be bouncing a lot of the Edinburgh shells just because he's more angled in, at least for now. So that's going to be the Azuma going down. Yeah, there's the salvo. Edinburgh actually gets him because he was showing probably a little too much side there, but he was pretty low to begin with. And we're going to go ahead and just start firing on the Gorizia, even though we get the cap in a minute 20. There's no need for us to not fire at him at this point. So I hope this video overall gives you a pretty good idea of, for myself, what I think is actually really good playing. Two brothers on the channel. A lot of this revolves around whether there's aircraft carrier players or not, or the, you know, now you're getting more of the U.S. hybrid battleships. You know, you have Kearsarge, Delaware, Louisiana, so on and so forth, and they can just make your life a living hell if you decide to go up the channel and you're just sitting there, unless you have some really strong AA ships. I would have made the same play on something like a Salem and Des Moines without an aircraft carrier or hybrid battleships being around. So over 54,000 damage to destroyed Dreadnought and the First Blood on that poor Baltimore, which we took him for all of his health and sitting there. So I think he was setting up a trap, but he got caught in his own trap. Top of the team with 1600 base XP. So our Jean Bar and our Prince Ruprecht did really well there in the battle as well. So hats off to them. And then going detailed reports, you can see, yep, definitely took Baltimore for everything he had. We did a lot of damage in North Carolina, and then the Algerie, and then a little bit on the other ships, and receiving 100,000 damage. So 610,000 credits with premium account is what we're going to end up on. So all in all, I think I'm going to wrap this video up. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if there's tactics or things you like to do in approaching and playing Two Brothers. But for the mid-channel approach, a lot of it, I would say, it revolves typically around your matchmaking and seeing what ship lineup is on the enemy team to help give you a frame of reference, whether it's a good idea to push up the middle or not. So if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you subscribed, thanks so much. I'd appreciate it. And we'll catch you next time. Take care.